top 8 contenders have already booked their spots, and now it's time to find one more, and it could potentially be another DreamHack champion from North American DreamHack events this year. It's going to be Shoop taking on newcomer MTGKID. Bringing you the action, going to be myself, and that's admirable. We know a lot about Shoop. We don't know a lot about MTGKID, other than he is a young guy coming in here, guns blazing, ready to play some Hearthstone, ready to make it to the top 16 and potentially go even further. I'm excited for this one. Are you, Nathan?
Yeah, it's always good to see Shoop playing, of course. He's always got something that's different about his lineup. He seems to refuse to play just like the regular standard thing that's out there, but that's exactly what he's up against. MTGKID's decks are Evolved Shaman, it's the Keliseth Rogue, it's Jade Druid, it's Highlander Priest. It's very standard across the board. Shoop, however, there's some really weird stuff going on here. I see a Mukla Tyrant inside of a Quest Mage deck. There is a Murloc Paladin, pretty normal. He's got a lot of top end in that one, though.
Yeah. Shoop
Greenskin.
Shoop is a quiet guy. He's a really, really intelligent guy. Don't ever underestimate Shoop. He's not the loudest guy in the room, but he is definitely one of the smartest for sure. And his lists have been working. I think he actually brought the same lineup as Rage. Rage didn't do quite so well with them, but Shoop now in the top 16. I believe he went 8-1, so a very respectable record coming from the DreamHack Austin 2017 champion. He's looking to get another title, but he's gonna have to make it through MTGKID, who we don't know much about, but we had a chance to talk to him and learn a little bit more.
I'm Jack. I am from Boulder, here in Colorado.
I'm Quinn, and I live with him, so we're from Boulder, Colorado. We actually play Magic the Gathering, and we play on a team called Team Card Order, and so we play that when we're not playing Hearthstone.
We thought we would try out Hearthstone because we've been playing it a lot at home, and we wanted to try out a tournament.
It's been going awesome. I've learned a lot, and I've had lots of fun, and it's just really cool seeing how all of this is made.
Do well in my first Hearthstone tournament, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. I agree. It would be awesome to just go to this Hearthstone tournament as my first one ever, and it would be awesome to top 16 in. I have no idea what I would do with the money, but I probably wouldn't share it.
Nah, I wouldn't either.
I understand a good sibling rivalry there. I love it. Brothers rolling up to their first ever Hearthstone tournament, and who's making it to the top 16? It's the younger brother.
Yeah, get wrecked, older brother.
Yeah, take that. That's what you get for being able to stay up late.
Should have brought real decks.
It's what you get for playing.
Talking about the same thing.
I don't know, something wacky.
But I mean, you caught the shot at the end, him going deep into the thought.
Yeah.
It's like the turn. He's like, it's a tough turn. Hang on, I was like, man, I didn't have that kind of focus when I was 12. I was thinking about like coloring books and didn't want to do my homework and stuff.
I was bouncing off the walls. You know, you go to school during the day, and then at night, the last thing you want to do is homework and try to hard focus because you're doing it for 10 hours during the day. But absolute props to MTGKID and his brother for coming to their first Hearthstone tournament, giving it a shot, and doing very, very well. So well, in fact, that he is going up against a DreamHack champion in his first ever top 16. This is going to be a good one. Let's check out the picks and bans. Shoop. He's a god. What more can you really say?
Shoop that oop.
Shoop the whoop.
Have you ever noticed that Shoop looks exactly the same?
Always. Every time you ever see him.
Like, I imagine Shoop is incredibly excited right now.
But you wouldn't know it. That's the thing. And here we see the decks that these two have brought. Shoop with the Paladin, Mage, Priest, and Rogue Band, and MTGKID with the Druid, Shaman, Priest, and the Rogue Band.
Yeah, Rogue Bands have been very common throughout. One of the big problems with having a lineup that's strong against Rogue is it takes quite a bit of dedication to be strong against that particular deck. You can do it, but it takes a lot of your deck to do it. And when you have to build 4 decks, that's likely something you just don't want to have to focus on across your lineup. It's a deck that will snowball if you don't check it. And so we've been seeing many people just ignore it completely, have it be in that ban strategy right there, and not have to include a lot of Galaka crawlers in their deck and ways to out-tempo Tar Creeper defense and little things like that. And I think that's added up to been one of the more interesting tournaments that we've seen, because we've really seen representation from everything except from Hunter. Really throughout this tournament.
Every class except for Hunter has made multiple appearances and has found great success. We've got a Shaman in the top 16 as well, which even though it does seem to have fallen a little bit behind Warlock as far as popularity, MTGKID has been going on an absolute tear with it. So it's time. Let's get into game number 1 of Shoop, the reigning DreamHack Austin champion, up against MTGKID, experienced with other card games, now rolling up to Hearthstone, his first tournament ever, and he's in the top 16. It's going to be Shoop on his Priest, and MTGKID playing the Shaman.
So a lot of times in this matchup, I've heard some debate over what is the best way to actually fight against Priest. If you're in MTGKID's spot, he's looking like he really wants to open with damage and hope that that's really get the job done. I've spoke a lot with some players who, rough draw from the start. I've spoken a lot with players who say things like, you keep Doppelgangster or Evolve and just look for the other one because that's your big turn. But that does put a lot of pressure on your mulligan to draw something early that I can work with. I've seen a lot of Shamans go the distance in this style of matchup, but on the receiving end of this, I've been beaten by a lot of Flame Tongue Totems. And it's such an important card versus Priest, and they have a tough time handling it. But Shoop has kind of opening hand that handles that early stuff.
Flame Tongue and Mana Tide are going to be 2 of the big key cards to look for against Priest, because Priest has a tougher time removing them than other classes. So you can usually generate multiple turns of value from those 2 cards. As far as Doppelgangster versus Evolve, I'm partial to Evolve because I like a good early Evolve turn. If you can build up a big enough board of 1 and 2 mana cost minions and you go for that early Evolve, you can get out of Shadow Word Horror range, and sometimes it's just enough to get there. But when you're up against a Priest that has Raza, Kazakus, and Anduin in the opening hand, there is only so much that you can do.
Look at that. Doppelgangster Evolve, 2 of the first draws for MTGKID. He's got pressure rolling here, and Shoop can tackle this, but his main goal is to tackle everything that MTGKID wants to throw at him. He doesn't really have the liberty of leaving a ton of minions on board, even if they're small, because he's got to worry about Bloodlust the whole step of the way. So I'm looking at the Wild Pyromancer being key, I'm looking at the Kazakus being key, and probably a Priest of the Feast likely for tempo, just to keep fighting for that spot. Because with Raza and with Anduin, I imagine Shoop's willing to expend just about anything to get to those key turns.
If he can get to those turns, he absolutely will find the advantage in this game, but he needs to get through the repetitive board states that MTGKID can throw out there. It's going to start with the smaller minions, then you have Doppelgangster Evolve. After that, you may find Thrall Deathseer and additional small minions, and the Shaman just has so much reload power that sometimes the Priest can't keep up. Shoop definitely going to be looking for Shadow Word Horror, Auchenai Circle, and that Dragon Fire Potion especially.
Thing from below is looking awfully good here. Like,
tasty 4-drop.
Just got all my damage beat up. All right, let's shut off this Acolyte.
Deny Shoop the draw.
Gonna try to anyway.
Hope that he can't get to those key combo pieces like Raza and Anduin. Fortunately for MTGKID, Shoop's already got him. He's really going to have to exploit the lack of AoE removal from Shoop.
Yeah, and it's honestly, it's really difficult to, oh my. It's really difficult. God, these shoots me
Hurts a little bit, I know.
Ooh.
If you've ever been in MTGKID's position here, it's not pretty.
It's hard to really decipher if your opponent has Shadow Reaper Anduin or not. A lot of times you get to this stage and you're just fighting so hard to take board control that it takes turn after turn after turn to really get that read that Shadow Reaper Anduin's there. If your opponent's kept it and you're on turn 7, sure, probably have a strong read then. But outside of that, you're spending the whole game fighting. And if you fight that improperly or you build too big of a board state in Anduin, you get super punished by that sort of spot. So I think MTGKID is in for a bit of trouble here. I think the Doppelgangster Evolve is going to have to pull some heat if he really wants to get this done. But Shoop landing the Kazakus, going to the Raza next turn, he's very likely to draw some stuff that answers.
He's got gas. He has everything that he needs except for some AoE. Picks up that 1 mana Kazakus potion. Maybe can use it alongside Wild Pyromancer and put together a board clear with a couple of cards. But Doppel Evolve has to carry a lot of weight. It certainly can. You can evolve into really effective minions like Karen Bloodhoof, for instance, which is an absolute killer against Priest.
The big one's missing for Shoop right now is Dragonfire Potion or a way to interact with just a bunch of big minions hitting the board. The lack of that might spell too much pressure for him. So the only thing MTGKID needs to do right now is just avoid the Jade Claws. But he's got the turn lined up. He's even going to have excess to go with it.
You may even see this Manatide stick around for a bit and net MTGKID some additional value.
And that's what I'm looking at. You know, how many minions does MTGKID really want to play this turn? If he goes with Hero Power, he goes with Manatide, and Shoop doesn't just get through Thing from Below, you don't have space to Doppelgangster evolve. So I think there's a lot of merit for, I think, playing one or nothing in this spot. However, if you do nothing, you pretty much tell your opponent that you have Doppelgangster evolve.
Yeah.
Do something, you threaten Bloodlust and maybe prompt action from Shoop. So I think I would tend to do something here.
I think you are assuming the Thing from Below is going to die. You just saw Kazakus Potion get picked up. If it's a 5-mana Kazakus Potion, it's very likely that Shoop has gotten some form of removal. So from MTGKID's perspective, I would expect this board to be cleared here. And with that For All Deathseer pickup, now he's got additional gas. Even if the Doppel Evolve isn't great, he can upgrade them again to 8 drops if they live on the next turn, and 8 is a big power spike.
These are some fire hands.
This is
I think Shoop's hands are tied here as well. I think this got to be Wild Pyro as he gets so much value off this Acolyte of Pain. +2 health as well. I gotta respect the damage push here, but I gotta wonder what happens if this Acolyte is instead killed off here. This is so much draw for Shoop.
He already has a lot of what he needs. You want to be careful and ride that line a little bit, right? You've got 7 cards in hand. You don't want to overdraw anything important like Dragonfire Potion, like pieces of the Auchenai Circle combo, but also you want to net as much value as you possibly can for this.
I'm somewhat surprised he's not going for Spirit Lash here. When you're Shadow Reaper Anduin in hand, it is important to be pushing some amount of damage and leaving, you know, nothing on board. Not really that big a deal, but life total can be a bit of a concern if you're facing down exactly Doppelgangster Evolve. Can't really think of much else that Shoop is weak to at this point.
No, that would be the exact turn 6. If MTGKID whiffed Doppel Evolve here, I'd say that Shoop had this game smooth sailing, but this could certainly throw a wrench in his plans depending on what MTGKID can get.
The average stats you get across attack and health are just about 30 with Doppelgangster.
That's
an
actually
Unraveler.
Pretty sick.
The Unraveler here stops Dragonfire Potion. It stops the Shadow Visions. Shoop's got to attack that.
Couple of understated minions, but not bad whatsoever. Forces Shoop to interact with the minions on board because the spells are now 2 mana higher.
I just got to wonder what would have happened if this Acolyte had died to that Thing from Below attack. Shoop would have a lot fewer cards right now.
Yeah. If MTGKID had gone for it instead of going face. Maybe a little bit greedy there. I don't know. He did push a lot of valuable damage, and for the Shaman, it is important that you calculate every point of damage that you get because of Bloodlust, of opportunity. Maybe not necessarily to win the game, but to set yourself up for some good outs, like a Jade Lightning or a Jade Claws, could come MTGKID's way. Yeah,
that does happen if Shoop doesn't have the clear, but something to really think about is
you're going to give him the clear.
The hand context is really the big one for me. He's got Aya, he's got all Deathseer. I think this is a great spot to simply play for value, slow the game down a bit, and just look to get repetitive damage out of your minions. Here, just so much draw has been had that even with the Doppel Evolve, it's just, where's the damage found here? And he suddenly shoots back at 24. I think value play was still in order.
MTGKID can overdraw Shoop by 1, but with Raza and Anduin in hand alongside Dragonfire Potion, a lot of the cards that Shoop has left are simply inconsequential.
Yeah, and I would tend to just take the overdraw here. I don't think the 2 damage is really getting there anytime soon if you choose to go with J-Claw.
You could also just go Aya Bloodsail. Oh no, he had Patches on turn 1, so Patches isn't an option here.
I still think I would tend to go for the overdraw. You don't have a super strong read on the hand. If you hit Jin, maybe just you burn Anduin or you burn Raza, and it just makes it difficult for Shoop to to find the win in that spot.
If you do hero power here, you can go for a thing from below with Thrall Deathseer in the coming turns. For cheap, try to hit a really valuable 8-drop off of that.
Well, I'm also just liking Thing from Below and Thrall. You get to turn this 6-drop into an 8-drop.
Yeah, Nerubian Prophet is really understated.
Getting aggro.
I think Aya is certainly fine to get down. You don't get the burn off of the Acolyte, but you push for 4. It's consistent with the game plan that MTGKID has been going for since the beginning of the game.
I think this hand might have been strong enough to fight for value, though.
Yeah, I think it may have as well.
This is an interesting game, for sure.
It's unusual that a Shaman hand of, what, 5 cards can fight with a Priest hand of 10. But I think this one may have been able to do it.
Yeah, we're reaching that point where Shoop is about to take full control, though. He's got so many good options. He's got answers to everything on board. He could try to buy back tempo with Doomsayer. You know, Shoop is seeing some cards stuck in hand for a while. I don't think he thinks Devolve was one of them, because I'm certain you would have seen Devolve right after the health potion came out.
I think so.
So, Bloodlust on his mind. It hasn't been a good turn to Jade Claws, something on his mind. Evolve, of course. Thrall, of course. Dragonfire Potion, just clear up here. What's this 2/2 gonna do?
Certainly can't challenge the Doomsayer on its own. And you would need to roll spell damage plus Jade Lightning to be able to clear it, and at that point, it's just not worth it. So this is a lot of disruption, forcing MTGKID to essentially take a turn off. And now Shoop will have first development on board, be able to get Raza down, followed by Anduin, Priest of the Feast for additional health gain, a Shadow Visions to find whatever he wants that's left in his deck. And I think Shoop has turned the corner.
Yeah, damage push did not quite work out on this one. Sometimes you got to slow down, and that's a difficult thing to decide. A lot of times when I'm first learning a deck, what I'll do is I'll relentlessly push damage for 2 or 3 games and see what kind of trouble that puts my opponent in.
Yeah.
A lot of times it doesn't put him in any trouble, and so I have to go back and review, well, what should I have done? Look for the weak turns of your opponent's deck and try to exploit those turns. And sometimes, in Shaman's case, a lot of times it's just about exploiting your own power spikes. Finding the right turn to land Thrall, to land Evolve. Those sorts of things. Not really just as much of an issue of simply pressing damage.
MTGKID's hand was very value-oriented. It was a good board presence hand, and he hadn't seen large amounts of AoE from Shoop. Shoop had managed to clear the first board, but he had to piece together a couple of different cards to do it. So MTGKID could have just gone full on board, burn a card from Shoop, hope it's something impactful, cut off that Acolyte, ensure that Shoop only gets 1 draw, but he instead went for the damage to face, and it is not going to pay off, unfortunately. This Deathseer could still be big. Anomalous.
Well,
that's working against you.
The thing that was quite clever here was leaving the Raza untouched into this spot means that if Shoop's going to play Shadowy Branduin, he actually has to blow up his own minion.
Yeah.
So that's something that in this situation I don't think is super relevant, but it's a thing to account for. And sometimes in these matchups, Velen has to be played or something big has to be played, and you can somewhat corner your opponent and force them to blow up their own minions in these spots. But here, Shoop is just, he's had so much time, he's had so much to work with, he's just going to run away with this game.
Anomalous is going to blow up everything on board. The Divine Shield goes away, and Shoop can then clear off the Scarlet Crusader. MTGKID left with no minions in hand, nothing to even use the hero power on.
It's like jump in front of the... It's like, I'll take
the
bullet for you, Thrall!
Thrall, no! Scarlet Crusader would be a pretty good bodyguard, but I don't think Thrall needs it.
It was cosplaying his noble sacrifice. That's
Get down!
The elements are silent.
Gotta give it to MTGKID. He is going for every last bit of board presence he possibly can.
Oh.
That is not gonna do it.
When you summon a beast, draw a card.
Young Dragonhawk!
No!
Order!
I didn't even think about that.
Neither did I. I still, honestly, will probably not think about that, but it happened.
So now left with MTGKID, he's got Highlander Priest, he's got Jade Druid. The Jade Druid has a Primordial Drake in it for MTGKID rather than the Medivh. And I've been seeing a lot of Medivhs throughout this tournament, but he's much more focused on fighting aggressive decks, a Galaka Crawler, a Tar Creeper, 2 Doomsayers as well.
Okay.
The particular Jade Druid list that he has, I think, could sometimes struggle to Shoop's lineup because Shoop is frankly just not that aggressive, and there's no pirates found throughout his lists.
Shoop is a control player. When he won DreamHack Austin, he had a N'Zoth Death Rattle control paladin that was heavier than any other paladin in the tournament. And this was not a meta where control paladin was a common occurrence. He loves to play slow, to play to his intelligent advantage, and it works very well for him. But unfortunately, MTGKID just didn't bring the tech choices to play against heavy control lineups.
Yeah, it's part of tournament play. Like, I remember the first time I ever practiced with Shoop, we were looking over some of the stats in his win rate and stuff. He had an enormous win rate with aggressive Warlock, and his Warrior win rate was about 53, 54%.
Okay. Control
Warrior just wasn't a strong deck in the meta. And he had so many more games played on Control Warrior. And he's like, I just like to play it.
He just enjoys decks that take analytical thought. It's one of his strong suits.
1-0 for Shoop in the set.
That Highlander Priest.
Dominant Priest game.
Doing what it does best, and you do not normally get draws that are that good. The deck can be fairly inconsistent. If you ever run into a situation where Anduin or Raza are the final card in your deck, you can really struggle to put those combo pieces together and to pick up the wins in matchups that may not be super straightforward. But Shoop just had it. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. And he did. MTGKID down to that anti-aggro Jade Druid and his own Highlander Priest. The Highlander Priest mirror often just comes down to who can get Raza Anduin online first. Jade Druid, in theory, is good against Priest. But the tech choices that MTGKID has lends me to believe that, like you said, it could really struggle.
Yeah, they're pretty darn close to a mirror matchup where the Highlander Priests are concerned. I'm looking at it, and I can't actually see an immediate difference. Granted, a lot of the
decks are very close.
But the difference that I think I see here, no, there's no lie. There's Gadget Zane across both sides, Akanai Circles in both lists, Mind Blast in both lists. It's an identical mirror match for the Priests.
That means MTGKID did his homework.
But he's going with Druid in this matchup. No ramp in the early hand either.
Holy, Shoop has Raza Anduin again.
You know, sometimes the Priest gods smile on you, and I've noticed that when players are using Anduin, it happens a lot more.
You think Tyrande is the issue?
Well, I'm a Tyrande gamer, and
I am as well.
And I just never draw these kinds of hands with this deck.
You know what it might be? When you run up against Priest, Tyrande is so enamored.
Jealous.
She doesn't want to hurt Malfurion.
She doesn't want to become Anduin.
Oh no, oh never.
Oh,
she doesn't want to give up her own identity. She's a strong, independent woman.
I'm going right back to Anduin after this.
They don't call him Andaluz. Let's just say that.
Hey.
Very slow start for MTGKID. He does have the Mire Keeper followed by the Nourish now to get some mana ramp going. But when you miss that turn 2 and you miss that turn 3, you are going to be behind. It gives Shoop the time that he needs to find his combo pieces, to get through the deck, to draw with some of those weaker minions that are strictly used to cycle through the deck, find the important cards.
And this is a spot where I think that the MTGKID should again be considered efficient. It's great to ramp, but with this kind of start, I don't see a long-term plan really being viable here. Before he starts getting Jades online, it's going to be quite a few turns. And granted, 2 damage isn't a lot. It's fairly insignificant at times. But if you look at the difference of, play the Jade Spirit this turn and then maybe save the Nourish for card draw, just start ramping up the Jades. If he just draws a bunch of Jade stuff in a row, that can put pressure on Shoop and force him to use resources prior to finding that Raza Anduin. And if he doesn't have enough cards going into those turns, it's a lot more difficult to piece together that in-game damage. So this might have been an opportunity to go for it. The downside, of course, is that you're not ramping. So if you draw all your big stuff afterwards. You're not ramped, and it's going to take you longer to get that online. So,
I do agree
tough call.
that getting the Mire Keeper down is very important if you're going into turn 6 and you have Aya or Jade Behemoth in hand, and then you want to ramp Jades that way. But when you're likely just going to play Nourish the next turn anyway, there's no reason not to play that Jade Spirit if you want to apply a little bit of pressure, start ramping those Jades a little bit quicker. You're going to Nourish on 5 anyway, and then maybe you have something to play with that Mire Keeper on turn 8, like a Swipe or another Jade Spirit.
There's so much that goes into one of two decisions. It's not a matter of, which one did you pick. It's a matter of why you picked a certain thing. And it's always difficult to discern. There are consequences and benefits to pretty much everything you can think of with this deck. So now, Nourish for ramp, Doomsayer, land the Malfurion. Doesn't look that bad to me. At this stage, though, it's really hard to, I think, find that big turning point he's looking for. If you draw with the Nourish, you can't, I don't think you can shuffle first here because you're still looking for Ultimate Infestation. It's got to be concerned with hand size. Don't mind the ramp at all.
You've got resources to use, so it's not like you're ramping into nothing right now, but you still have not found Ultimate Infestation, which is that power spike. That is when you can afford to shuffle Jade Idols, draw into more, really get your Jade mechanic going, and overwhelm Shoop with the power of your board state.
Yep. Rouse on 5.
Shoop's gonna thrive.
Oh.
It's not a bad draw. You can land Fandral this turn, maybe keep it up. Malfurion next turn is really, really good.
What to do?
Maybe you have to take those risks. You're a little bit behind.
Right into Shoop's turn 5, I do consider the Doomsayer over the hero power. The 1/1 Jade's not super valuable. Maybe he buys back tempo with that.
You gotta stay ahead somehow. All right, able to draw with this Wrath, clear off the Raza.
It's back-to-back turns of hero power, so all this ramp has yielded.
It's a lot of wasted mana.
It's yielded very little at this point, and that's really the one fear I had in this matchup is that Jades wouldn't be ramped and that the mana wouldn't be utilized properly. This is giving Shoop a lot of time.
He could go for a bang-up gadget turn this turn if he wants to silence this Fandral and just cycle pretty heavily, but looks like he's got too many cards in hand, doesn't want to risk it. You can silence the Fandral anyway.
I love Curious Glimmerroot. Was the Elder Longneck, the Ironbark Protector, or this Spreading
Plague? Ish. 6 mana? I don't like it. And actually, will probably just be more useful for Shoop in this game than it would be for MTGKID.
I'm actually curious if Shoop even needs to silence the Fandral here. He's seen a Nourish. How big of a punish even is Malfurion? He's got Shadow Word Horror in hand. He's got Spreading Plague available.
With the Shadow Word Horror, it's really not.
I don't think it's
it's really not a punish
just
whatsoever.
Leave Fandral around.
Silence is more valuable with Gadgetson if you need to find some cards.
And so now that MTGKID has found himself in this spot, it's difficult to go with a defensive plan of just accumulate a lot of armor and stay out of reach of what Shoop has. Raza Anduin is going to be online super early, and he doesn't have the pressure on board to really force Shoop to interact with his board. So
a defensive plan is good for the Druid once you have an offensive plan in place.
Yeah, once you've got resources.
Yeah, if you don't have an offensive plan, your defensive plan may keep you alive for a couple extra turns, but it's not going to win you the game.
And with no card draw in hand, this is looking.
It's looking grim.
It's looking like some Desperado moments.
What to do?
Why don't you come to your senses and draw Ultimate Infestation, MTGKID?
It's harsh.
You started it. Can't expect me to not pick that up.
It's very tempting to play the Malfurion here. I think I tend to go for 2 Jade Spirits. Now, the benefit of this is that maybe you force Shoop to finally start doing something.
Yep.
having the Malfurion online does also give you the unlocked extra damage from hero power.
Could come in handy. Shadowwood Horror here cleans up all of the generated spiders and scarabs. Leaves the Fandral up, but now that you've seen Nourish and Malfurion and both Wraths, Fandral is pretty much a 3-5.
I think Spreading Plague's just fine. I don't think she really needs to do anything in this spot. Now, what does he want to do? Good question. He's just got so much freedom to mold his hand. I mean, I don't even think that like Coin Anduin is that bad in this spot. I think it's
really
one of the worst of his plays, but
it's not the worst thing.
When all you have is good options, it's pretty tough to go wrong here.
Yeah, the Spreading Plague buys you a turn. Obviously, MTGKID can get some easy trades with the poisonous spiders, but Plague's never going to get better than this, and buys you some time. Force MTGKID to keep playing.
It also just gets a 6-mana card out of your hand.
Yeah, it's heavy. You've got Gadget in hand. You're likely going to want to draw for something. Also saves you Shadowwood Horror, so if you pick up Pint-Sized Potion, you can clear off some mid-sized Jades.
Oh, did we mention this gains like 20 life, by the way?
It's a lot of life. MTGKID just, I think his hand speaking greatly to his strategy.
My thoughts are plagued.
Very defensive. Tar Creepers, Doomsayers, Primordial Drake instead of Medivh. It's a valid game plan.
I preach a lot against Medivh. I actually don't think you need Medivh in a lot of matchups.
Admirable. You don't like 10-mana cards?
I mean, do you need it in Jade Druid? Sometimes it can be a big saving card when you have these.
Coon, Ultimate Infestation, Tyrant. Can't argue with the results.
And looking for the Primordial Drake setup in this board, try to mitigate as much as possible. This is about as good as it was going to get.
Nice job of making the most out of what he has in this Drake. Likely stick around for a little bit. A nod to anti-aggro, but still pretty effective against Priest.
Now, Shoop having a handful of fairly expensive cards, he's still quite a ways off of lethal damage here. But again, your opponent's Jades aren't ramped. It is very difficult to justify not playing Anduin here.
I mean, you're not under enough pressure to not play it. Just start getting those hero powers online. Get that Fandral finally off the board, and MTGKID still has not been able to ramp those Jades. You haven't seen Ultimate Infestation, and he's been on 10 mana for a while. Shoop's feeling pretty good.
So at this stage, you've got to find a way to pressure Shoop. Thinking draw a card, thinking some green men.
Yeah. MTGKID's also considering hero power, be able to push 4 to face that way, and then double Jades.
Or maybe the armor as well. I mean, armor is
valid too.
It's not invalidated at this stage. Again, if you build a big enough armor total, it is still somewhat difficult for Shoop to reach, especially if he's able to keep pressure going at the same time. So I think both plays have merit. You do want to put Shoop under offensive pressure as well. That's just very difficult to do in the face of Anduin.
2 armor ups for MTGKID does negate 3 hero powers from Shoop, so certainly spreading those in with your game plan is pretty valuable when it comes down to last-ditch efforts, last little bits of health. If he's able to finally amass some pressure, get that offensive plan online, then the defensive strategy as well going alongside it is really valuable.
And now Shoop is faced with a pretty interesting decision. He does have the option to simply ignore the board from MTGKID. I mean, this isn't a ton of damage that's piled up here. And just turn after turn, launch damage to face.
Yeah, he's got Velen in hand, no Mind Blast, no Holy Smite. It's a lot of damage, but is it enough over the course of a couple turns? MTGKID still on 38. Shoop does have the gadget to find the additional resources, to find the Mind Blast, the 0 mana spells. Haven't seen Circle. I also don't mind this. But it also just frees up board space for MTGKID. Board before was completely full.
Yeah, at the same token, Shoop hasn't seen a lot of Jade Ramp, so are you expecting much pressure to follow after this? Probably not.
Probably start to pinpoint some of the cards that are in MTGKID's hand. Defensive stuff, not too effective against Priest.
It's gonna need some green.
3 draw resources left in deck. Nourish, WI, and a
Spellbreaker does deny some draw. Just the pressure's just not there at the moment.
The Jade Druid against the Priest is all about pressure. Get those minions on board before the Priest can deal with them. Try to race them so that they can't get their combo pieces online.
The other thing, too, is that the offensive pressure is a catalyst to the defensive game plan.
It is.
And it's somewhat weird to really think about, but again, you have to exhaust resources if you're going to reach that armor total. If Shoop has the liberty of molding his hand perfectly, he's going to get a lot of value out of the stuff once you reach that point. So at this point, I think the defensive plan is completely gone for MTGKID.
But the offensive strategy also just hasn't lent itself to the hand that MTGKID has had.
Yeah, and that attack is designed specifically to make Shoop put 4 hero powers into this Primordial Drake if he wanted to kill it. But with Gadget and Auctioneer, with Coin, with all these cheap spells, I don't think Shoop has any interest in defense right now.
8 power on board for MTGKID. Shoop sees an opening, and he is gonna take it.
Miracle Priest. I feared this day.
The day has arrived.
Oh my.
Got Velen in hand. Radiant Elemental now. Not looking good for MTGKID. And this was the deck that he chose to try and counter this Priest. After this, he's left with a strict mirror. That one oftentimes comes down to early draw, but also how skillfully can you play the deck?
I do have to say that I think MTGKID's Druid is quite weak to Shoop's lineup.
Yeah.
For the most part. With Murloc Paladin, that's featuring Grimscale Chum and Cold Light Seer. The Quest Mage left from Shoop. This deck, I don't think, was just going to get a lot done. And so the queue up here, I think, is more of just like, I'll take my shot and hope that it works.
May have lined up a little bit better into the Murloc Paladin, but leading the Priest. It's just a very good strategy. It's hard to deny the validity of that, and still another whiff from MTGKID. He had all the ramp in the world, didn't have any of the payoff.
My thoughts are plagued.
No Aya, no Behemoth, no card draw. When you nourish for ramp that first time, you've got some resources in hand, you think, all right, I'm almost certainly going to pick up additional draw cards. So it's usually okay to nourish with that first one, but in a matchup like this, you've got a lot of time. Can you really risk it?
I mean, look how far we are into the game, and Jade's at 4/4s. The tech choices from MTGKID, it's showing the importance of those tech slots and how they impact certain lineups. You know, Shoop anticipated certain players bringing lineups that had a lot of anti-aggression, so he went with decks that are designed to take advantage of that. In these first 2 games, he has pretty much just gotten extremely good pre-stance.
Oh, that's a fact.
That's part of the deck. If a deck has a very high power level, it's probably something you want to bring to a tournament.
There's likely a reason why the majority of players in this tournament have elected to bring Priest, why every player at HCT last weekend had the Priest. And Shoop, over the course of 2 turns, he's got lethal damage. MTGKID with just nothing that he could have done this game to pressure Shoop, and Shoop's gonna go up to a 2-0 lead. MTGKID now is going to need to mount a comeback with his own Rozakus Priest.
And it is from the look of things, it is the exact same list that Shoop is playing. So the mirror matchup in the events, again, that you don't have those astounding draws, that you don't have those ones that you have every single best card at every single turn.
Yeah.
So much of it comes down to what are you making of your resources? And that boils down from minion pressure to timely uses of Northshire Cleric to even proper play around Potion of Madness. All those little things can add up when you don't have that star-studded hand. So in this matchup, I've even heard talks of people saying, you don't keep Kazakus in the matchup. Now, I think that is foolish. I think that card draw and Kazakus are great, wonderful things that you want in this matchup. The thinner your deck gets, the higher your draw quality is.
I think if the name of the deck is Razakus Priest, it is certainly reasonable to keep its namesakes. I will just say that.
I'm going to start calling it Ultimate Infestation Druid, just so.
There you go.
Just so you fall into that trap.
I think it's certainly reasonable to keep that in some cases. Thinking of the cases?
Wait, does Shoop just not emote there? That's a big misplay.
I hero power and emote.
Ooh,
Neither player plays Purify, though.
Mind Blast. And that's not the natural Mind Blast. And that can be a big key in this matchup, is landing those huge bursts of damage. You know, we're looking turns and turns down the road, but if he finds a Velen coin Mind Blast turn, that is a lot of damage.
Indeed. It's also likely that Shoop with this Kazakus will just pick up a 1-mana potion, looking, again, to those many, many turns down the line once Raza and Anduin are active.
This Glimmer will tell us a bit. So Radiant Elemental, of course, is the card that's found. Deck lists are open at this stage of the tournament.
There is no failure rate here.
I will imagine that Shoop wants to find card draw off the Kazakus, though. So 5 could very easily be in order to try to find that draw, too.
Wow, okay. So MTGKID passed on the Mind Blast. Picks up that Holy Smite instead, off of the Glimmerroot.
Well, he had to pick up the Holy Smite there.
He didn't have to.
It's true, he did not have to.
I would highly recommend it.
Very highly recommend it.
Instead of that form of damage, he does have one additional burn card now.
Your 3-mana 3/3's just giving you no cards? Curious Glimmerroot provides a card if you guess it right.
Our deck list open? Have we got a card for you?
Here's the draw, too.
There you go. Picks up the 5-mana potion. Shoop wants to, first and foremost, find those combo pieces. No need to get ahead of himself. Can't combo with Velen unless you have Raza and Anduin.
Now, we do also, the Silence pickup does throw a nod to Gadgetzan Auctioneer. A lot of spots here. It represents card draw.
Yep.
It's got coin, silence, one-cost stuff.
MTGKID knows what this deck is about. He has a game plan, and with that silence pickup over the Mind Blast, he as well as Shoop looking for that combo pieces first and foremost. You can have damage later, but if you find the combo pieces first, you will likely just have the damage necessary, even without additional burn.
So now, the board parity's finally been broken. Shoop has an opportunity to start getting busy on this board. And so 3 damage, starts to chip away, gets the 5/5 plus the 2 card draws. Suddenly, MTGKID is under a bit of pressure. And this is not pressure that you could simply ignore for the duration of the game. If it comes down to an Anduin race, whoever was delivering damage in the mid-stage has a major advantage at that point. So this pressure will require attention at some point.
There's not a lot of mid-game for the Raza Priest, but if you can get a little bit of chip in here and there with some of your draw minions, the Kazakus potion in this case, really speeds up your clock once you hit those late-game combos.
I'm just looking at this Auctioneer turn. Drawing cards is the greatest thing in the game. If I could kill my opponent and draw cards, I'm drawing cards.
You know, to each their own.
That's why I like Ultimate Infestation. It does both.
Everybody likes different things.
Hand size accounted for here with the Wild Pyromancer.
Not much
and just looking at the Dragonfire Potion turn. So with Binding Heal in hand, the damage is not, it's not super relevant. It's not all going to stick. And there is still time to get in hero powers here and there.
I hope you like my invention.
So to me, it's looking like this is setting up Dragonfire or just setting up the Auctioneer turn in general.
Yeah, I would agree. You can still...
Shoop is going to offset that, though. And 5-7 is very different than 5-5.
MTGKID can use that silence with the Dragonfire. He's got another silence in deck. But spending both of those resources means that not a lot he can do once Gadgets and Auctioneer comes down.
And Shoop looking at Spirit Lash here.
I don't think that's unreasonable. He has no health gain right now. If MTGKID has Anduin in hand as well, picks up Raza, Spirit Lash could be important.
Ooh.
Okay, one resource apiece. Who's gonna get the other first? If MTGKID doesn't want to use silence, it's got the Holy Smite. But then you're giving up the Smite and the coin.
Yeah, I'm not giving up my coin here.
You've got another silence anyway.
I am willing to call giving up the coin a mistake.
If you're sure.
He agrees. Go for that clear. Try and catch back up. See what Shoop can develop now. MTGKID's got 2 strong turns.
Ah, this is what Shoop was going for with that Spirit Lash. He wanted to kill his own Loot Hoarder. And I spotted this as he drew the Blood Mage. I was like, wait a minute. That's guaranteed to get card draw there. Again, I mentioned playing around Potion of Madness. A lot of times that means that Loot Hoarder and Blood Mage can become liabilities. It's a 2-card swing. Denies the card draw from opponent, gives the card draw to you. That can be a disaster in this mirror matchup. And those little tiny things can matter a lot. Shoop was thinking about that, I think, when he took Spirit Lash.
Yeah. Keep Potion of Madness as a largely useless card in your opponent's hand. Don't let them get any advantage from you. Make sure your resources stay your resources.
Mind if I roll knee?
Looks like that's exactly what he's going to go for. Excellent spot by Shoop. Cycles too closer to Raza. Still doesn't find it.
2 Radiant Elementals is scary.
Burn potential's getting very high. But MTGKID's got Raza online first. He has the Gadgets in hand. One of my favorite voice lines. And I get to hear it a lot, so bonus.
And again, to that same effect, hold the Blood Mage. Do not let Potion of Madness affect you in a very negative way.
You've got Shadow Word Horror in hand. You can Blood Mage and Horror on the same turn. But Shadow Reaper going to come online for Shoop. And even though the hero powers are 2 mana, you can still weave a couple of those in here and there and start getting some damage online.
I believe the moment of truth has arrived. I'm sensing some great deals.
Would you say like the best deals? Like anywhere? Like not just Denver.
It claims that, but
I must consider.
Have we considered other deals? Have we done the research? Does Lorinda's Book of Stats have the stats?
I've done a bit of research, and I've heard that drawing a lot of cards is really good.
Some people say they'd rather draw cards than, kill their opponent.
It's very true.
I've heard that before.
Yeah, those people are idiots, but, you know.
Everybody has their weak moments. Drawing cards is real tempting. It's going awfully slow.
Wow, hangs on the coin.
That coin could be a much better card right now. I'm playing that coin every time. Even if you coin into nothing, doesn't matter. I think that may be the first misstep I've seen from MTGKID.
Darkness speaks to me.
Is someone injured?
It just looks, I know this is what he's doing, but it looks funny to watch it happen.
Shoop sees the lines.
No more deals.
The end is coming!
It is a race to that second piece of the puzzle.
MTGKID could have been one card closer. He elected.
Could have been two. Could have played the Thalnos and killed it, I believe. Maybe I'm doing my math wrong here. 8, 6, 7.
I believe he had 1 mana left at the end of last turn.
You're right.
Yeah.
I must consider.
Blood Mage and Horror this turn.
That means you ever hold the Auctioneer for another turn. That's weird. There's a lot of weird stuff in this game.
Usually, I found at least, one player gets both pieces very quickly, and then either the opponent has both pieces very soon after that, or they just have nothing, and the first player wins. It's rare that you see both decks struggle like this. I think Shoop still has the advantage just because Shadow Reaper can do multiple damage per turn, whereas Raza can only heal 2.
Yeah, I don't want to say Shoop is struggling per se.
It's just not as good as his last couple of turns. Why are you letting this die?
Well, I'm fine with letting it die, but if you're going to let it die, you attack Shoop, right? I think there's clearly a lot of pressure going on stage. I mean, every professional player I've ever talked to talks about how much pressure affects your ability to think. And mind you, you're not just sitting there listening to music and Hearthstone game sounds.
It's white noise.
There's a very loud white noise that's funneling through those headsets.
Yeah. We hear pleasant music.
Yeah.
They can barely hear their own thoughts.
You get, at home, get the wonderful sound of mine and Cora's voice and our infinite wisdom.
If you mute us, you can hear Kripparrian. That's always soothing.
White noise is very different than the comfort of your own home playing Hearthstone.
The dulcet tones of disguised toad.
I don't know if you're firing shots or complimenting people at this point.
No, I like Toast's voice. Krip sings me to sleep.
Does he sing? I've never heard him sing.
He doesn't sing.
I knew that was a lie.
Maybe. Maybe not.
I'm going for it.
Nothing better.
At this stage, I would have liked to see him take the +4 health and go for the big Resurrect Potion. I think that's a way to potentially pressure Shoop.
Build your board. Raza's a nice pickup there.
Hey, it's Pit Lord. Amnesiac was talking about that guy.
Yeah, he was saying that's a good card. I don't know.
Shoop's hand is just stacked with ways to answer.
Once he gets Raza Velen, game's over.
If you want to know the question of which is better, Raza or Anduin, it's Anduin. And I don't think that many people had that question, but the Anduin is dominating the board right now. Nothing has stuck to the board for more than a turn.
Even just, 4 mana every turn to deal a couple damage to your opponent's minions against a deck which has very little board development is good enough.
I'm jamming this Pit Lord. I'm jamming this Priest of the Feast.
I'm taking 5, and I don't care who knows it.
I'm hoping that it's enough to ever get anything done. You just saw Dragonfire Potion. Get in there.
Pit Lord, I know you haven't seen competitive play in a while, bud. So you gotta step it up.
Pit Lord has never seen competitive play.
You gotta step it up. Amnesiac would disagree.
Incidental Pit Lords are different.
I concede to that point. Nope, just gonna go for the Doomsayer. Both players down to almost sub 10 cards.
Well, Shoop does have to spend something. Don't think he minds, though. I'd like to see Shoop doing similar things as well. I'd like to see him actually getting some minion development at this point. Just go ahead and take out the Doomsayer.
Put that Priest of the Feast online. You haven't seen Pain from MTGKID. but you're also not under any pressure.
Even if Shoop just does a throwaway of cards here.
It's fine as well. Could have just Potion of Madness.
Still no Anduin.
And no way to get closer. Coin still sitting in hand, doing nothing. I mean, yeah, you want to keep that coin around. I get why he kept it in hand, because that's 4 extra damage when you have Anduin and Velen online. It's a long way off.
He's got to make something happen.
Seems really reluctant to play his minions. So reluctant that he's going to throw away Shadowward Horror instead. There's a pair of Radiant Elementals in Shoop's hands.
I am slamming this Hawkeye Song Priest on board.
I'm starting 3 damage.
Somebody play some minions.
Somebody
There we
do
go.
something. Yeah. You're never going to need Hawkeye Circle. Threaten 3 damage. Make MTGKID react to it. Oh!
Anduin is found now. And one of these players has assembled the Raza Anduin combo. The other player has not. And that could make things a little bit tricky for Shoop.
That could change things. Even without the Velen now, MTGKID, every card in hand says Battlecry, deal 2 damage. That damage adds up fast.
Takes a deep breath. Sigh of relief to see that draw.
Shoop whiffs again.
And his throwaway now begins.
Binding Heal and the Priest of the Feast mean that Shoop has some time. Is it enough time?
MTGKID is now in the hunt for Velen. Velen would basically
End
instantly
this
end the
game.
game. Yeah. Still on the jam plan for me.
Nothing else it's gonna do. 4 mana, 3/5, deal 2 damage.
Lord. Lord.
I get why he's not playing it, but I so want him to play it.
Ooh.
Big pickup.
So would forego damage for Shoop this turn. He can use a Radiant Elemental at this point, right?
Yeah. You cannot physically play 2 on the same turn with the Velen. I think you're absolutely fine going for 1.
You usually can't digitally play 2 either. You gotta have coin for that.
Yeah. Got a point there.
Darkness speaks to me.
Shoop does have the damage on his mind, though. I mean, he can't just leave minions around and tank damage for the entirety of the game either. He's going to pay more heed to wiping the board.
He also
30.
only got like 8 cards left. When does Fatigue ever become a viable strategy for MTGKID?
I don't think it does for either player, because as soon as Shoop assembles the combo, that's the end of it. As soon as MTGKID assembles the combo, that's the end of it. I actually don't. I think this is the one matchup that I've never seen go to Fatigue.
Yeah.
I've seen like Zoo matchups go to Fatigue before, but
It's not often that this mirror trades resources. So
oh, they're from hand. It's hard to line up that way.
it's rare they go this long.
The nature of that is because it's not a 2-turn kill. You know, you think back to some of the old Freeze Mage matchups. A lot of times you had Alex first to actually kill your opponent.
Yep.
Gave them time to respond. You had ice blocks in that matchup to delay the actual killing blow. In this matchup, as soon as you get enough damage to sink your teeth in, that's it.
You got it. There's no counterplay to that. You can take a couple of healing spells, but usually Velen can out-damage them.
Typically not sufficient counterplay anyway.
Yeah.
The counterplay is more of the, burn the Enduin, dirty rat the Raza. Mindbreaker, of course, which hard counters this
Play
time.
Big Druid and Earthen Scales for 13.
Yeah, armor total is a play around to it. Still no Raza for Shoop.
3 cards remaining.
And this is the first time I think that I've really seen this much emotion from Shoop. Moving his hand near his face is a lot more than he typically shows.
That is a sign.
That's
stress.
nervous. Motion of Madness, though. You have to account for that.
There's
Velen.
Velen. Raza in the last 2 cards for Shoop.
If I'm Shoop here, I'm going to consider the Auctioneer. Because I want to guarantee the draw. MTGKID has demonstrated he does not have the full combo put together here.
Yep. He's got 7 cards left. He's looking for Velen.
But honestly, Shoop just wins through fatigue damage, even if that Auctioneer sticks to the board.
At most, he takes...
He would take a couple points, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
1, 2.
Maybe just can't afford it.
Maybe 3.
This does push a little bit more damage as well.
But if he doesn't pick Raza off the top...
Shoop looks genuinely nervous right now.
It is a 50-50 for Shoop to pick up that Raza. If he's got it, over the course of 2 turns, he wins the game. If he doesn't get it, it's 1 more turn for MTGKID.
And honestly, MTGKID's close to killing Shoop, but just not quite there.
Last
Oh my.
card
And
in the deck.
Shoop now has his game plan completely laid out. At this stage, it is 100% he knows exactly what he wants to do next turn.
Does he have 3 turns? If MTGKID picks up Velen right now, you have Hero Power.
Mind you,
Velen Hero
Shoop
Power.
doesn't quite need 3 turns. I mean, with double Radiant Elemental in his hand, he could just play the Raza. Hero Power, Radiant Elemental, Hero Power, Radiant Elemental, Hero Power, Mind Blast, Bite Size, Binding. How much damage is that?
It's a lot.
2, 4, 6.
Oh.
Whoa.
Whoa. Okay.
So Shoop is setting up the lethal next turn just by natural drawing
Of the Raza.
of the Raza.
That works too.
Oh, that's no healing.
MTGKID needs to death this, and then Shoop picks up Raza guaranteed. He's thought this through. Shoop would not have played Velen there. He didn't have this game wrapped up.
I'm out of cards.
I don't know if Shoop 100% counts this right.
I
Oh, he
am
could death
wondering
he could death
as
his
well.
own Raza. That's where the extra 2 damage comes from. I couldn't find the extra 2 damage. But he gets to death his own Raza because of the double discount
He
for the Radiant
does.
Elemental.
He does. You're absolutely correct. There's where that 1 mana goes.
Wow. I did not spot that. And Shoop did, and that's why Shoop is
That's
always
why
putting
Shoop-
up big DreamHack performances.
That's why Shoop is a DreamHack champion, and that's why he is going to take the 3-0 victory over MTGKID. And Shoop's going to the top 8. Both Shoop and Muzzy in the top 8. We've got Dr. Jikaninki coming up a little bit later.
Hey, my hat's off to MTGKID here, though. First Hearthstone tournament, super young, comes in and makes top 16 of the very first one.
Did so well. You absolutely cannot just look at this match and be unhappy with it, because his entire run in this tournament was fantastic. So
Yeah.
congratulations to MTGKID. He has a bright Hearthstone future ahead of him. I am sure of it. But Shoop, He's on a roll.
It just the thing to take away from this match, I think, is just the learning opportunity.
Oh, yeah,
there were
absolutely.
a lot of opportunities, I think, to continue to fight for value. Some opportunities where MTG could have gotten a little bit more aggressive, but you have to cross those experiences to understand that they're there. Right? And it's kind of how I alluded to. I play matchups, and I will intentionally play them bad just to see the kind of situations I get into. But in that one, the Shaman game was the one for me to look at. Was there more potential to simply fight and try to land a thrall turn? Was there more potential to try to choke out Shoop's resources a little bit longer and look for a bigger swing turn? I think they were there. But for Shoop with this one, he's really the man of the hour. Now with 2 DreamHack champions making it through to the top 8, we are looking at a wonderful day tomorrow.
We're going to have some really, really nice quarterfinal matches for sure. Can't wait to see what the rest of these top 16 matches hold. Coming up next, it's going to be Rosti taking on Just Say, and we're not done yet. Stick around, guys. We'll be right back with more DreamHack Denver Hearthstone Grand Prix.